All right. Hello, everyone. We are finally in this meeting. Thank you so much for your patience with that. I sincerely appreciate it. We had a little bit of a technical issue on this side, but I always, it's what makes it fun, right? So welcome to today's meeting. It's now 4 minutes past the top of the hour. Thank you so much for your patience. I am very excited to share the content of today's presentation with you. Let me share my screen. Here we go. All right, today we are in a presentation brought to us by TimeSolve. So my name is Joyce Bradford. I'm an attorney. I'm licensed in North Carolina. Today we're going to talk about using your reports to get to zero AR. So as attorneys, as small business owners, there are things that you have to worry about on a regular basis, right? And primarily because you are attorneys, you're working for your clients on client matters. That's where your time needs to be spent. But because you are also a business owner, it's your responsibility to make sure that you're getting paid so you can pay the necessities for your household, so you can pay the necessities for your law firm, and especially if you have staff, right? Now, certainly we want to get paid, but it is important to note that a lot of us write things off, write things down, especially when our invoices go 30, 60, 90 days into collections. And what we find is it's harder and harder to collect those. And eventually we start seeing those long-term out of date or overdue invoices as sort of, sunk costs. We aren't going to get it back. And that's not where I want you to be. So today we're going to talk about using the reports within TimeSolve to get to exactly where you need to be. My goal is typically to keep these presentations to 20 minutes. So we're going to probably go till about 2:25 today to accommodate for the little troubleshooting issue at the very beginning that I had with audio. All right. So a little bit about me. My name's Joyce. I think I'm wearing the same shirt right now that I was in that picture. I've worked in and around legal tech and legal tech sales since 2011, and I am a legal tech nerd and officially the world's luckiest mom. Let's see if I kept this next slide in here. I did. This is my mom and her two kids. This is my very serious little man who is ready to apply for his very own small business loan. I am a proud mama. All right, so today we're going to talk about best practices to collect all balances, and we're going to talk about reports on how to do that, and then behind that, behind those reports and how to use them, and some of those best practices to put them in place with your firm. We're going to talk about the things you can start doing today and how quickly you can collect those outstanding balances. And my goal is to have you at zero accounts receivable within 90 days. That's our goal. So let's get started. All right, so best practices. One, you need to be using real data. This is not guesswork. It's not, well, I think I've got overdue balances. It's, I think Mr. Jones paid me last month, or Mr. Jones seems like he's really good for it this time, right? We're not going to do that. Today, we're going to talk about using real data to get the data, or to get the information we need to make good choices for our firm. We're going to talk about that flexible payment plans as part of our best practices, billing workflows, payment reminders, staff training, and remembering the customer experience. And we're going to do all of this using the right tools. But step one is real data, right? That's the reports that we need to get to zero AR. So what are those reports? Well, in TimeSolve, and that's what we're talking about here today. Today is a presentation on and about TimeSolve. You have some incredible reports. Your first is your accounts receivable reports. If you are unfamiliar with general accounting terminology, which you are probably not because you're here, your accounts receivable is the funds that are due to you. This is money that is owed. It's money that is not going to go into your trust account, right? It's owed. It's owed to you. It's earned funds. And it's going to end up directly in your operating account for you to use however you choose to use it. Pay your bills, pay yourself, go on vacation, whatever you'd like to do. Accounts receivable is your money to use when you'd like to, right? The trick here is that it's receivable rather than received. So we're going to get a report on all of the money that's due to us, right? We're going to look at our aged invoices. We know that it is typically less likely to collect the full amount of an invoice the older that invoice is. And sometimes that's because you've gone through the process and everything you need to do to collect that money up front and have a good process and procedure in place. And it's just not going to get collected, right? And sometimes it's because you haven't put processes and procedures in place and you've let that money slip through the cracks. So we're going to know exactly where you are and whether or not that money is receivable or not. And we're also going to look at payment history. Payment history is really important because it's going to tell us who truly is a good client who's willing to pay us and who is not making their best effort to pay their money that's owed to us, that we've earned as practitioners. We've provided a service to them. So payment history is important. It's going to tell us who has low-hanging fruit that we can easily collect and who we're going to have to work a little harder to collect from. And we're going to use that information to determine how much is outstanding and what's still collectible. Okay, so the first thing that I want to talk to you about is your accounts receivable report. Now, this is a pre-built report. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to be an accounting whiz. You don't need to figure all this stuff out. In TimeSolve, right now, today, either in the trial that you have started or will start today, or in your TimeSolve account, you can go to your reports and you have accounting reports, and one of them is your accounts receivable. This is, again, the money that's owed to you. Now, if you have accounts receivable outside of your business, right? Maybe, you've loaned someone money and you've got some interest coming in on that. That's not what we're talking about here. This is only the work that you're tracking in TimeSolve, right? So let's just be really clear. But for most of us who are practicing or who own their own law firms, this is going to be your full list of accounts receivable, right? So your accounts receivable in TimeSolve is going to start with a couple of fun ways to categorize your data. One is your client. TimeSolve recognizes that your clients pay matters, don't pay themselves. So you have the ability to pull your invoices by client. Do you want a specific client? Do you want to see all your clients? Do you want to parse that down even further? You're able to do that in TimeSolve. And then you have these things called categories, and I want to talk about these on the next slide. So I want you to come back to them because categories is not something that most of us think about when we think about invoices and what's due to us, right? We think, oh yeah, I want all my invoices, or I have all my invoices for a specific client, right? The categories are phenomenal, and we'll talk about those. Then I've got my billing category. Do I want to look at my hourly, my flat fee, or my contingency bill, right? And how am I grouping this information? Am I grouping it by client? Am I grouping it by practice area? That's really helpful to get some specific data. So if I want to know how profitable my family practice is, or how profitable my real property practice area is, I can group by client or I can group by practice area. I've got options here. I do have the ability to include trust balances in my accounts receivable as well, so I can know if I can bill against those trust balances, or if I have trust balances that can be billed against, right? I can also include works in progress. This is a really important tool. I would click this on almost every time. Not only do I know that I have accounts receivable that's out there, that's outstanding, but I also want to know if I have work in progress for someone that I haven't billed to them yet, because I probably need to stop, or I need to consider the work that I've already done and go ahead and bill the client. So when I am trying to collect that overdue amount, if it truly is overdue, I can collect the full amount that's owed to me rather than chasing them down for $1,000 now and then having to come back for $150 2 weeks from now. I have my as of date. So what's my accounts receivable as of today, as of 2 weeks ago, as of 3 weeks from now, right? I want to know. I want to know where this is going to stand and where I'm, what my accounts are going to look like given a specific calendar date. For most of us, I like to do this either at the beginning or at the end of the month, depending on when I'm reconciling my books. But if you are doing this on a regular basis, and you should be, you need to look at this at a consistent time frame. 1st of the month, 15th of the month, 30th, you pick. I pick 2 days. I like personally the 1st and the 15th. It makes me feel very consistent about what I'm doing. But having that accounts receivable as of a specific date, month over month over month, lets me know where I'm trending, right? If I'm just picking a random day in the month, it's really possible that it's 2 weeks after I sent my invoices out, so my accounts receivable is ballooned, but that's not a true reflection of how I am collecting and my overall collections pattern, right? So once I select all this information, I'm going to generate my report. Now, I do want to take you back to settings. So in TimeSolve, you have the ability to create categories, and you have master client categories, and you also have subcategories. This is a very helpful tool to help you categorize your client either by location, by practice area, by matter type, whatever it happens to be, right? I can think of major categories for my clients and then minor categories for my clients within each one of those subcategories. And it's going to help me determine, again, how successful my practice is based on those specific parameters. It gives you more deeper, richer data than just who are my clients, what are my matters, and how long have they been overdue. But setting up the categories within your TimeSolve account is a great way to capture data that would not otherwise be there. And this is fully customized to you. So you get to determine what the important feature sets are for your clients as you're tracking how they pay their bills. All right, so let's look at what an actual accounts receivable report looks like in TimeSolve. Now, keep in mind, this is just a very small screenshot. We could scroll down for pages and pages and pages on this, right? But for this particular fictional law firm, Katz and Associates, I've chosen to separate this out by client first. I want all my active clients. I'm including my trust balances, and I'm looking as of a specific date. Okay, I can see all that in my upper right-hand corner. It's all there. So it's never a question about what data I've pulled, right? And I can see everything that I have done or the full accounts receivable for a particular client, right? And the matter name that we're working on here. So I see the type of activity, right? And I am seeing the amount of each one of those activities, right? And then at the bottom, I have my client total. And this is really helpful for me for each one of these matters because I've grouped, yes, by client, but also by matter, right? And you see my matter number first there. So for each one of my matters, I see everything that's happened there, and I see my client total. So when client Ann Case calls me and she says, Joyce, how much do I owe you? I don't have to scroll between multiple matters. I know exactly how much Ann Case, specifically Ann Case, owes me across all of her matters, and I can see all of the transactions on each one of the matters that we've worked on for her, right? All right, so now I want to talk to you about aged invoices. So why do aged invoices matter? And we touched on this just a moment ago. We know that it's easier to collect an invoice really close in time to when that invoice was sent to a client. So if it's current, right, and not past due, it's going to be listed in the farthest or second farthest column here. Then we've got it down by 30, 60, 90, 120, and 180 days out. Once we get above that 120-day mark, it is exceptionally challenging in most cases to collect payment. We're going to talk about some strategies to make sure that you never get to that 120, 180 days again. But you just need to know, even if you look at your accounts receivable, your total accounts receivable, and maybe you've got $500,000 in AR right now, maybe you have more than that. It can feel like you're sitting on a lump sum of cash that's just right out of reach. What's much more likely, though, is you've got some portion of those amounts that are just going to have to be written off. You are probably not going to collect that full $500,000 or whatever fictional amount you have in your law firm right now. But you're going to be able to tell exactly which of those columns are easier to collect based on where they are. So at the bottom of this report, if this wasn't just a screenshot that I grabbed for you, but if I scrolled all the way down to the bottom, I'd see my totals here, and I'd see which one of those amounts truly is right at my fingertips that I can collect much more easily. And then beyond that, I'm going to be able to see which clients I'm working for a lot that have outstanding amounts for me. And I'm really going to see the ones as I scroll through this report. Which clients do I have multiple open matters for that have multiple overdue invoices that are 60 or 90 days out, because I need to collect on those. And I need to stop working on their other matters until they pay me for those. And I need to start working hard to collect that money. All right, let's talk about payment history because this matters a lot too. I know that if I have a client that has made multiple payments to me on an open invoice or multiple invoices, they're much more likely to pay versus a client that is not likely to pay me, right? A client that has not paid me much or that pays me only small amounts of money or pays me sparingly, right? this is another way that I can logically see what amount of money is actually going to come to me. So I see my all clients here, and from earliest to latest is how I have this sorted here. And I have my date that payment was made, the type, was it a payment, was it a debit, right? The methodology of payment here. I have the reference note. So is it the, is there a reference note? There might not be, but if it's a check, sometimes you'll have a reference note on that. And I'll see my payment amount, my available funds that I'm holding in trust for that client or that are in a trust retainer. I see the invoice that it was paid on, and I also have my invoice amount on this report. So I can see how much was the invoice amount versus how much did they actually pay me. So there's a pretty big difference here, right? So I, looking at the client total and the allocated amount for, discount client right up at the top, right? I see the client paid me the full amount that's owed. I don't need to worry about anything there, right? It's totally fine. But I do have some clients that have not paid me their full amount, where these numbers do not equal the payment amount and the invoice amount. There's a pretty significant difference between the two. So it's healthy. It's healthy once a month or so to go through and look at who's doing what, who's paying me, how often are they paying me, are they paying me their full amount? If I have someone who's not paying me frequently, it's worth giving them a call. Hey, do you plan on paying me? Let's start a discussion on that, and let's use a little bit, a lower octave. Let's be serious. Let's get a payment schedule in place. And that's a tool we're going to talk about in just a moment to truly get you down to zero AR. But if it's someone who pays you regularly, it might just be worth saying, hey, you're a little bit behind this month. I know you're going to pay. Just, hey, letting you know, here's the link to make a payment, because I've turned on payment links and you can just pay with a credit card today and it'll be fully resolved. And most folks will take you up on that offer if they have an outstanding balance. All right. So those are the tools you use. I want you to look at your accounts receivable. I want you to look at your aging AR reports. I want you to look at your payments. I want you to look at your payments by client and all of the payments, or all of the invoices, the outstanding invoices that you have across all matters for each one of your clients laid out to make it much easier for you to collect. So how, now that we have that information, now that we know who to focus on, we've used the information that we've gathered from those reports, who's likely to pay me, what money am I very unlikely to receive, and I kind of just need to move on and collect the low-hanging fruit first. What can I go after today? Now that I've located that information, if I have someone who has been slow to pay or has been outstanding for 30 days, I'm going to talk to them about a flexible payment plan. So within TimeSolve, I have the ability to get a billing methodology on file and to start a payment plan, which gives them a predictable payment every month on a billing methodology that I have on file. So I know I'm going to start getting regular payments. If they can't pay me in full, they can pay me at least partially. So repeated payments made regularly in a consistent amount, charged to a payment method. Make it easy. Offer your clients payment plans, and this is a tool in TimeSolve. You don't have to do anything special. It's just part of the service. Secondly, to prevent people from going into AR, right? To prevent those overdue invoices, I want you to use a billing workflow. So if people know when to expect an invoice from you, they're going to be more likely to pay it. So in your retainer agreement, in your fee agreement, in your scope of work agreement, in your nice little welcome client package, I want you to tell people how you bill. It's really important to tell people how you bill, and part of that is when you bill, and you need to hold that date sacred. So you need to bill consistently, and you need to bill regularly the same way every single month. I'm going to go through, I'm going to bill everything that I've recorded in TimeSolve. I know my time is there because I've entered it when I've been in TimeSolve. I've entered it on the desktop app when I didn't have access to the internet. I've recorded, I've connected all of my apps. So I'm getting notifications when things need to be added to my timesheet, right? I reviewed this. I have a billing workflow in process where I look at my open invoices, where I review them and I bill them, right? And for those folks who just are still late and don't have a payment methodology on file, you've not put on a payment plan, you need to be sending payment reminders. This is, again, something that you should be doing within TimeSolve. Send a notice that an invoice is upcoming if it's late, but if you do have them on a payment plan, you need to go ahead and build a card on file. And I will tell you, if you want to get to zero AR, you need to put a credit card on file, and you need to use TimeSolve tools built in as part of the TimeSolve suite of tools to bill your clients month over month over month. Get a credit card on file when someone becomes a new client of yours. If there's not a card on file, send an invoice. Send an invoice reminder 15 to 20 days after that invoice is sent, before it's overdue, right? Give someone an opportunity, a reminder to pay you before something is due, because if they see that, they're going to trigger, oh, she doesn't want me to be late. She wants me to pay. She wants to collect, but she's also pretty serious about collecting. Let me just pay this lady, right? And then after it's due, send her another reminder, and then another, right? My process would always be upcoming deadline, right? And then here are some additional reminders. And this can be done via email. You don't need to send paper on this. Don't make this hard. For overdue plans or overdue invoice, remind folks that payment plans are an option. And you need to get serious about training your staff on this process too. For everything, for your pre-bill workflow, for your invoicing of your clients, the collection of payment, the reminder of overdue invoices, you need to have a written SOP. Now, a lot of this can be automated within TimeSolve, but that does not replace the need for an SOP, even if it's just you. It's a great exercise to have this written down. Just makes it easier when you decide, when you grow, to hire someone. Go ahead and do it. It's a good exercise for you, and it is a step forward, so you'll be prepared for growth. If you do have staff right now, you need to review your SOPs with staff, not just to tell them about them, but to make sure that you haven't missed any gaps. And you need to shadow your staff. You can absolutely set expectations, but if you aren't following through and making sure that expectations are met, then eventually no one's going to live up to your expectations, right? And you can even have staff train each other. Lastly, I want you to remember the customer experience in all of this. Communication is always key. Up front, you need to tell them what your payment expectations are. Again, in your welcome to my law firm packet, wherever you'd like to do that, in your fee agreement, in your representation agreement, whatever it happens to be, but somewhere, maybe multiple places. I advise multiple places. But communicate with your clients. Have written expectations in your packet. You need to have a responsive staff, and if that's you need to be the responsive staff. In order to be successful here, I would recommend that you have templates in your email where you can easily respond to your clients. It's not a bad thing to have templates. They're very helpful. They can say something as easy as, if you'd like to make a payment, here's the link, right? If you have questions, please reach out during specific business hours if it's a phone call. If someone sends you a voicemail, you could reply back with a text. No kidding. Reply back with a text. Every phone these days, every smartphone has predictive text as well as snippets that you can just record. So if someone leaves you a voicemail, you can say, the fastest way to reach me is by text message, or fastest way to reach me is by email. Here's my email, and send them in the right direction. And make sure that you have reliable answers. And just remember, good experiences are not always defined by case outcome. They are more frequently defined by how well we believe a service professional represented us or communicated with us, right? If our expectations are met, we generally are pretty happy. And so it's on you as the service provider to manage those expectations. All right, so let's talk about having the right tools. One, you need TimeSolve Pay. That will enable you to take online payments and to have a payment link in your invoices that you send to your clients, right? It also allows for recurring payments, so that having that billing methodology on file and regularly, automatically billing against that payment method allows you to do that. It also allows you to very rapidly get through bulk billing and be sure that you're going to get paid, right? It's an incredibly helpful tool for anyone that has any money in accounts receivable, any funds that you're having trouble collecting. You need to institute TimeSolve Pay today. All right, so today you're going to start a TimeSolve account if you haven't already. You're going to migrate any missing data about your clients into TimeSolve. You're going to run the reports we talked about. You're going to draft reminder notices to anyone who has an overdue account, and you're going to create drafts of acceptable payment plans. Over the next 90 days, here's your plan, right? Day 1, run the reminders, draft your reminders, or run reports and draft reminders. 2 weeks from now, about, right? Day 15, send reminders again, right? I know you've already sent some out, but send some reminders and begin setting up payment plans for those folks who have overdue accounts, right? Go ahead, start your TimeSolve account today. Let's get this up and running. So 15 days from today, you can start setting up payment plans. 30 days from now, 1 month from today, you're going to review your collections because you will have collected more than you otherwise would have because you have an easy way for clients to pay you. You're going to send any additional reminders. Day 60, you're going to review collections, send more reminders, and create more accessible payment plans. So if the payment plans you've created didn't reel in those big fish that you want, call back, offer a more accessible payment plan. Even if it's a longer term than you would like, you can set terms of 150 years. It does not matter, but start receiving some of that money. Get it done. Get it done. Start doing it. And day 90, all of this, I want you to be thinking about your process. Is this process working? Do my payment plans work? Am I communicating with my clients? We talk to clients all the time, but one of the things that it's just hard for humans to do is to set expectations. I expect that you will pay this invoice. I expect that this invoice will be paid or that you will have made an effort to begin payment on this invoice within the next week, right? Use your lawyer pants, right? Just get in there, set your expectations, and review your process at 90 days. It's possible you might have to write some of these things off. Okay, fine. But as this is going through, one of the things that's not on here, but that I hope you'll do with your new TimeSolve account is get that billing methodology on file. And you can tell folks, I don't have to bill against this credit card. I don't have to do that. I absolutely don't have to do that. If I will send you a notice 20 days before an invoice is due, you will get it. I will mail it out to you and you will get it in an email, right? You can do that in TimeSolve. You can get that, no problem. If you don't want to be charged against your credit card, you need to let me know in advance and you can pay me. And then you won't have anything to be billed against your credit card. It'll be a zero balance because you will have paid. But I need a credit card on file. It doesn't have to be how you pay me. You're going to get notice of what's due, but I need a credit card on file. If that's just part of your process and you tell folks that they have the option, but that they have to have a credit card on file with you, you're going to be much more likely to get paid, and you're not going to be in the situation where you have an overdue invoice. And we're going to get you down to zero AR. Okay, with that, I want to leave a little time, and we have less time than I would have liked here for questions. I will tell you, if you'd like to learn more about any of these tools, about the report, about recurring billing, about TimeSolve Pay, your absolute best resource is the actual TimeSolve website. From there, you can chat with a member of the TimeSolve team, as well as actually start a trial. They'll walk you through your trial. They'll walk you through a demonstration if you'd like to see one. Their job at TimeSolve is to make sure that you understand that account. So go to timesolve.com. It's absolutely worth your time. Start a trial if you don't have one. Start an account if you don't have one. It's a wonderful tool for anyone that has anything in accounts receivable right now. All right, if you have questions, please use Q&A feature down at the bottom of your screen. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording in just a moment, so your questions won't be recorded for posterity if you have any, but just hang out with me. We are going to stop sharing, but for those who are joining this webinar after we recorded it, thank you so much for joining at a later date, and I hope that you'll go see timesolve.com as well.